Welcome to Diary 101 podcast. I am your host, Akakandelwa Kandepwe, also known as Aka. I always say that my intro is one of my favorite things, and today I realized that I have been saying this for 100 times, like 100. With that being said, we have 100 episodes for the podcast. Can you imagine saying that 100 times? Definitely one of the favorite things to do. I have been saying this 100 times. Can you imagine? When I was thinking of what this episode would be about, I thought that, I would like to share a little bit more about myself as we go into the year and share something about one of my favorite projects to do sometimes. And that is called A Little Bit of Everything. It's not a project, it's actually just a newsletter where I share a little bit of everything I experience and see during the week. It's on LinkedIn, so it's something you can check out. So why did I come up with A Little Bit of Everything? Well, I've been doing the podcast for a while, and I realized that my public speaking skill set and communication skills are growing, but I still want to be a better writer. So after my birthday, on every birthday, I always like to commit to something I can do for a while, and if I like it, I keep at it. If I don't, I stop. So I decided to commit to weekly sharing about the newsletter every time. So I'm recording this on a day the newsletter is supposed to be released, and because I have been so tired, I decided I might not share anything I was writing. But anyway, that's a story for another day, knowing when to take a step back and just breathe. Anyway, so what A Little Bit of Everything has is 5 segments of 5 paragraphs. The first one is a quote of the week. So quote of the week is a quote I like. So maybe I am going through my Instagram, LinkedIn, or any social media page, I will see a quote I like, and I'll keep saving them. When it's time to share the newsletter, I will pick a quote and write what I think about the quote and how I relate it to my life and story. The second thing is book I'm loving. So book I'm loving comes from a space that I read a lot, but I got so tired of writing book reviews, and it's like one of the few things I could interpret so good because I read a lot and I enjoy it, and I always want to leave that part of me alive. So I decided to add book I'm loving so I can just share the books I have been reading, the books on my bookshelf, and interact with book lovers, because you owe us to my people. The third thing is a podcast episode highlight. So I listen to podcasts a lot. I don't listen to them like I used to a few months ago, but I do enjoy podcasts. I own a podcast, of course. So one of the things I do is listen to a podcast, analyze it, or share about it to inspire somebody to get into podcasting and for them to probably listen to the episode and hope they like it. The fourth thing is Opportunity Hub. One of my favorite things about this one was at first, when the newsletter was just starting off, it was only productivity hacks. So I'll share different productivity hacks that I'm working on, that I'm doing. And I realized that I ran out of productivity hacks in whatever I wanted to try out. And honestly, it started being my least favorite thing because I always want to be authentic. I always want to talk about stuff I am trying out or doing, and my productivity levels really are not always the best thing. So just trying to make sure that I actually had a productivity hack that I can talk about with others and experience was something I wanted to keep. So I transitioned it to opportunity hubs. So my company is called Peak Pathways, and we share different opportunities to different individuals, especially young people, that they can sign up for and apply. A lot of people have given us feedback that it's been very impactful. So I thought that's like a very easy way to keep up with opportunities and things to do. So I kept the opportunity. I changed productivity hacks to opportunity hacks so that I can keep looking for opportunities to share with young people. The fourth one is a not for me. So this is always personal. This could be something that happened, something I'm reflecting on. I think the recent ones have been about the different bereavements we've had as a family, my different experiences. Yeah, it's really about anything that I might have experienced during the week. It's very raw, it's very real. I like to be as honest as possible. Yeah, so that's what a little bit about everything is all about. And for this 100th episode of the podcast, I am going to run us through about a little bit of everything that I love, and we're going to use the structure that I use on the newsletter, because then it makes more sense, and I hope you enjoy it. So the first thing is the quote of the week. So my quote of the week is by Young Pablo, which is, may you attract someone who can match your level of commitment and care. So I'm at a level in my life that I am speaking more of commitment, and I am living that. I'm living proof of that in terms of the work that I do, the people I surround myself with, my environment, and how I just genuinely want to be treated. And the last 5 years of my life, I know that I have been exploring, learning more about myself, trying out new stuff. And I want the rest of my 20s to be committing to something and see it into fruition, and taking care of it so that it can take care of me in the future. When I think about this, mostly I think of my business and my professional growth. How best do I want to grow my business? What type of person do I need to become to grow the company I have? Where do I want to go to be the person I am now? So there's those different level of commitments that I have experienced and experiencing it, and I feel like it's a stretch on my end because I'm not a very committing person. I would always just get out of stuff because I can. So this is it's very different for me to sit with the uncomfortability, to sit with the silence, to keep working on something even if I think it's not great. So yeah, it's been that. Instead of my love life, I noticed that I never really committed and took care of stuff. And just making it in general, in terms of friendships, I think I redefined what friendships looked like for me in 2020 during COVID. And it's also time to redefine what relationships and friendships and romantic relationships look like for me at the stage I'm in and the season I'm in. And that's not because I want to rush into having new friends or I want to rush into a relationship. It just means that I'm more intentional about the things I do and the people I let in my life and don't let back into my life. And that's like one of my goals was if somebody and I were no longer friends or we're no longer in a relationship, I don't want the back and forth, the misunderstandings. I want to give the person grace, but grace far away from me. And I think recently somebody told me they wanted something from me and they told me to be a vessel, God's vessel. Maybe I'm God's vessel for whatever they needed. And I have been going to church a lot lately, and I'm, again, redefining relationships in my life and focusing more on my relationship with God. And I said, well, you're not going to use God against me because that's not how it works. I might be God's vessel for you, but I just don't think I'm God's vessel for you in this season. Because even God knows that for you to get something, you plant what you sow. you can't plant mangoes and want lemons. It doesn't work like that. So you can't say because naturally I'm God's vessel in their different lives. You should use that as a pinpoint that I should also be able to do something for you, and you'd go into it. Like, it doesn't work like that. And I think my favorite relationship this year has been my relationship with God, and it just gives me so much peace to know that everything happens for a reason, and with God there won't be miscommunications. With God, that already exists. I don't have to plan it, I just have to claim it. So this is why this is my favorite quote of the week. And it says again by Young Pueblo, may you attract someone who can match your level of commitment and care. And I would like to re-emphasize this. May you attract things, not just somebody, that match your level of commitment and care. May this be in business, may this be in your career, may this be in friendship, may this be in your love life and family. May you attract what you need and what you reflect, because you attract who you are or what you are. So may you attract more of what you are and not what you're not, and may that stick around for a long time. So yes, that is the first segment, which is the quote of the week. The second one is my favorite, which is book I'm loving. So one of my favorite books I got was The Art of Spending Money by Morgan Housel. I think that I have a bunch of books, but I think that in this season I use it a lot subconsciously, even when I make decisions, because it's been a very important book on how you could do certain things. And we won't even go far. I'll actually just read out one of my favorite parts, which is chapter 1, which says, all behavior makes sense with enough information. All behavior makes sense with enough information. I think sometimes we look at people and we're like, why are you behaving like that? Why are you that person? And because we are on the other side, very surface level, we don't understand why a certain individual behaves the way they behave. It just doesn't make sense. So it just doesn't make sense, and we kind of judge them for that. But the more you have more information as to why that particular person is behaving in that particular way, it starts to make sense. So why I like this chapter a lot, because even when I look at myself and I look at people, I'm like, well, I really don't have enough information to judge somebody on that. And one of the questions we could be asking ourselves is, what have you experienced that I haven't, that makes you believe what you do? Would I believe the same if I experienced what you have? I think as human beings, we don't ask ourselves that surface question a lot. And asking, what have you experienced in your life that is making you spend money the way you're spending money? Is making you date like that? It's making you insecure like that or secure like that? If I experience what you experienced, will I actually turn out the same? I think that it's very easy to judge. It's very easy to look at somebody and be like, I'll do better. Like, if I was in that position, I'll do better. It makes me judge people less. And the other thing that can make me talk about it openly was when I had Dr. Celia on my podcast. I remember 2020, 2021, and we're having election period was coming up, and she was the Minister of Health. I remember how I hated anybody that was in PF in that period. Like, I disliked them a lot. And then 5 years later, I met this lady who is an amazing politician, very articulated, a good communicator. She is top tier and she's worked really hard to be where she is. And she's speaking because now I'm a young woman and I am in some of the spaces she's in, not all of them, like 10% of the time. I am experiencing some of the things she might have experienced. I told myself that I get it. I get, for you to be at a certain level of success, you need to go through certain things, but you also need to have a different skin to survive it. I don't think if I was in her position, I would have survived. If that makes any sense. Like, I genuinely, I look at it and I'm like, bro, I would never survive, because I go through my own stuff and I'm barely surviving. I'm barely surviving the politics in my office. I'm barely surviving the scrutiny. My nervous system is always shutting down and I want out half of the time. So it's a very important question to ask yourself. What have you experienced that I haven't, that makes you behave believe what you do? And would I believe the same if I experienced what you have? And sometimes breaking it further is, would you believe the same? Would you think the same? Would you act the same if you were put in somebody else's position? And it really just makes me want, especially women, it makes me want to just show them more love, because that's a lot that everybody is going through. And because now I'm in the same space, I'm like, dang, we don't talk about this enough. Why I'm sharing this is because Morgan Housey has a very interesting way to hook you to read his books, even just from the chapter lineups, the way he writes, the stories he talks about. I hope that somebody gets to read this book or just really dives into this chapter a lot, because all behaviors make sense, men or women. I want to say even dogs, but everything makes sense with the right information. I think that the least you could do is ask the right questions and give people more grace. I am living in a space of, how do I give people more grace? And sometimes people require grace far away from you, and people require grace close to you. You need to let that sink in and know the difference. As this would make sense if I have more information. Even if I had no more information about this, whatever I have should be sufficient. I should give grace. But as I give grace, I should know, am I giving grace from my table, or am I giving this person grace from a different table? And I am proudly going to clap for you either way. So I like to write about it and I like to talk about it. But yeah, I hope it makes more sense. I hope it makes more sense why certain people make the decisions they make. I hope it makes sense that you're taking a break and everything is running according to how it's running. Just remember that everything makes more sense with more information. We're gonna go to the third part of the segment, which is a podcast episode highlight, or a podcast I like. Well, it's no lie that I love The Diary of a CEO a lot. Clearly. So it's one of my favorite podcasts. I talk about how it's inspired me to set up my podcast and just share my story and find a medium of communication that works for me and just to get better. So Stephen Bartlett is the host of The Diary of a CEO. He had one of my favorite authors and business person from the UK. His name is Daniel Priestley. Daniel Priestley is like Morgan Housey for me, because he also knows how to articulate himself very well. So when I think about an episode I just stumbled upon, it made more sense to want to share this episode. So the episode title was Plumbers Will Earn More Than Lawyers. I predicted 208, now I'm predicting 2029. So there's a lot of conversation going around on AI and what jobs will be taken away when AI erupts. It's already erupted, by the way. Is that the right term? But yeah, when AI is in full fledged, certain jobs will be taken away, and why he believes plumbers will earn more. I stumbled upon Daniel Princely's work through Stephen Butler's podcast, and I think I started listening to him in 2024. I read his book, Key Person of Influence. I've attended a few of his online workshops on how he breaks down certain skill sets of how best you can go around certain things. So every time you see him on a podcast, every time you hear he's going to be on a podcast, you want to listen to what he has to say, because again, he's an expert in what he does. He's well articulated, and he has really great products on how you can scale your business. He has something called a scorecard. He has different stuff you could use. So let's go back to the plumbers earning more than lawyers. So in this instance, he talks about how the things that require us to think will be taken over by AI compared to things we use our hands with. So handiwork will be more valuable, like a plumber, a builder. That will be more valuable because AI can't replicate that 100%. They can have machines, but I don't think they'll do a great job. But compared to a lawyer, your work is just thinking work. So AI can replicate that. And he really does break down what are some of the things that would happen in the next few years to 2029. What's the impact of AI? I think it's such an amazing episode. And I like how, again, they really do break it down for us to just say, hey, this is what is happening and you need to be wary about it. And he talks about a few things we couldn't do without a lot of people years back to things we can do now. For example, it was so hard to create software. Only major software companies could do it. Now, other companies there are tools for that. There are AI tools for that. And they can create a software company, or you can create software or build a software company in a specific niche for less people than you required last time. It's just so many stuff that you could talk about it. I think he also talked about the danger of AI. He talked about how in the different industrial ages or revolutions, did I say that correctly? In the different revolutions that happened, the infrastructure one, the tech one, the .com one, it always took a while to implement that. For you to have built infrastructure, it took a while to implement that, but also the return on investment is very long term. So compared to AI, there is data places, data hubs where they keep the servers for the machines. And what's happening is that you have to replace those servers every 3 years. I think, it could be every 3 years. Again, when you listen to this episode, it kind of gives you a bigger picture of what's really going on and what you should really be on the lookout for as a young person. Again, a very interesting conversation to experience. For me, my take from this episode is I really always want to know what's happening. Like, what's really happening in the industry? What's really happening? What type of skill sets do I need to have? Not in these episodes, but one thing I like about him, he always talks about, are you a creator or a consumer? So creators are people that create what we consume on social media or on different platforms. And creators are people that, I said that correctly, that create what we consume, and consumers just consume. So creators have a high possibility of gaining an advantage in the AI industry. So if you learn how to create and not just consume, you gain an advantage. But if you're just a consumer, you'll be just on the receiving end and you'll be the food at the table. So yeah, that's my podcast highlight on what I really liked. And the fourth one is opportunity hub. So for this one, I want to break it into two and talk about a productivity hack that I always use for the podcast, and then talk about an opportunity for business women in Zambia by Bongo Hive. So the productivity hack that I have been using for the podcast is Calendly. It doesn't even count, but yeah, I use Calendly a lot. This is not a promo, but I use Calendly a lot for my meetings and my bookings, and it also shows me how many meetings I have booked, what my productivity looks like. The first year, 6 months into the podcast, I would manually book guests, go back and forth with the time, the dates, and if I was in a different country, it meant even the time zone. But now with Calendly, I feel like I just give them the link and they get to set up the meeting themselves. Why am I sharing this? It's such a hack. To have Calendly is like, it saves me a lot of time for the meetings I have, for the people I have to see, all that. It really just saves me a lot of time and energy. And I think that sometimes, especially for my colleagues in Zambia, they're very skeptical about it. And I'm like, guys, just use the link. But it has saved me and my team a lot of time on booking people, which is very important to me. So I don't have to do that because it's such a headache. So that's one of my productivity hack. Try Calendly. If you're a small business, if you want to get into podcasting and you want to book your guests, book your clients, I think that it's one of the best things you can try out. One of the opportunities that is open now is the Women Intake Accelerator Program by Stambik, implemented by Bongo Hive. I am so excited for this one. I have been dreaming for it to come up because I want to apply. And this is where my insecurity comes in. I don't even know if I'm a woman in tech, but my business uses tech. Does that make sense? Okay, moving on. I kind of like this a lot, and I'm always trying to figure out ways for my business to grow, for me to be a better business owner and just grow in the tech industry slowly or gradually. And the Women in Tech Accelerator is one of my favorites. I applied for it once. I wasn't chosen. I know I'll be chosen for this one by fire, by force. But yeah, this is like an opportunity for any young woman who is in the space of technology in Zambia. You can apply for it and get picked and see your business grow. That's the fourth part of the segment, which is the opportunity hub and the productive hack. So I gave you like a 2-in-1. The fifth thing is a not from me. I have been going through a phase where I feel like I have a lot going on work-wise and just social, and I feel very lost and lonely. I think that a few people can light up my world, and I was talking to those people in the space of like the 24 hours I have been in, and I was like, well, when I talk to you, I feel much better, I feel more sane, and I realized that the journey I'm in needs more emotional support than any other support, because then you make so many decisions and you have to stand by them to see them into fruition or to just see them work out for a while. So one of my favorite things has just been talking to my mentor, talking to a few of my friends, and just being sane in this season, because I think that there's a lot going on. And also, I feel like I'm going through a breakup, which is not a breakup, and a breakup with different stuff, right? I feel like I'm going through a breakup with somebody I liked. I'm going through a breakup with my best friend. I'm going through a breakup with some of my colleagues, my work. As a lot of breaks up, and I don't have that sense of stability. It's like you reach your mid-20s and everything starts shaking, but your world can't stop because you still have to go on. You still have to show up in a specific way. And I know I can tell you this because you go through it in different phases, and it's still going to be hard for everybody because you're not ready for it. So I'm here questioning all my relationships and knowing what can stick and what can't. What is good for me in this moment and what isn't. And I realized that most of the stuff, I'm like, I'm going to do that next month. February came. I'm going to do that in March. March is here, coming to an end. I'm going to do that in April. And I'm just like, I keep postponing stuff. And my to-do list of things I don't want to make a decision on keep piling up. So one of the things my mentor really just helps me with is making decisions and really breaking down steps for me on how those decisions can be made, how to go about it, and really just stick to your decision. He always says, I think that I talk about him a lot. I say that, and in a short period of time that he's been mentoring me, that's how much impact he's having in my life, because I see stuff from a businessman perspective and from a different perspective of what I'm working on, or an idea I'm coming up with, or where I'm at as a person, and just jumping in when it comes to a few decisions, blah, 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 black sheep. So a lot for me is really just, I'm in a space of giving myself grace, cried a lot. I feel heartbroken half of the time, but I really still need to show up, still need to be myself, and still try to be a ray of sunshine, but still loyal to myself. So it's a lot of what keeps me sane, what do I need in this season, where can I be in this season. And in a very famous, in the words of my friend, he said, don't ever beg anybody to stay, or don't let anybody tell you twice they don't want you. That is in terms of a relationship, a job, and friendship. Don't let people tell you twice they don't want you. And before this episode was recorded, I had a whole hour session with him, and he was like, well, okay. In everything we've discussed, don't let anyone tell you twice they don't want you, or treat you to show you they don't want you. And that's like one of the best takeaways I have had. And my mentor said, just leave. It all works out in the end. So yes, this has been the 100th episode of the podcast. A round of applause. This episode really is gonna be one of my favorites, because I don't ever think the podcast will ever turn 100. Not turn 100, but have 100 episodes. I shout out to my team in the background that does all the work and help me show up and make sure all this gets done when it's supposed to get done. And to everybody that's been listening, you guys have been listening to me 100 times. The 100th time. Like, when I saw the episode numbers, I was like, chick-ching, 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 chick-ching. I also liked sharing my newsletter with you in the format I have been doing it. It's given me the strength to actually release an episode. So thank you so much for listening, for being here, and for loving this episode, for loving and listening to this episode a lot. I've had so much fun doing this 100 times, and I hope that we get to do it for another 100 times. I'll definitely do another episode when we have 150 episodes into 200. I'll make sure I remember all the measure numbers. And yeah, so thank you so much. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope you've enjoyed the new branding, the new guest list. I have so much fun with those people recording, so I hope you have had so much fun. And yeah, so with that being said, thank you so much for listening to the Diary 101 podcast. Share it with a friend and tell them about this episode and how much I love to hear them. Subscribe, share with somebody if this made you smile or it impacted you in so many ways. I know that 80% of you who listen to this episode don't subscribe, so please subscribe and let me know what you think. Comment and share. I will be happy to listen in. Yeah, so with that being said, bye for now.